Welcome to Field Notes, the monthly podcast of modern steel construction, the monthly magazine of AISC. I'm your host, Jeff Weisenberger. This month's guest is John Schupbach, who has carved a unique niche in the structural steel industry as a matchmaker of sorts between equipment buyers and sellers. Let's start with your somewhat long and winding road through the industry. How did you get to where you are now?
I grew up in the family steel fab business in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay. Oh, yes. Yeah.
My dad bought it in '89 when I was in high school, and I started working there, picking up scrap and driving the forklift in '89. I was 15.
Okay.
14, 15 years old.
I was born in 74.
Okay, so that's I was born in '74 also.
Very good.
Yeah. So
It was a fabrication shop?
right.
What was the name, just out of curiosity?
Transtex Fabricating.
Okay. Is it still operating or not?
No, we sold it in '09. So
Okay.
we acquired, he bought Transtex Fabricating in '89. We bought Bear Steel, BEXAR Steel in '92
Okay.
when I was still in high school. And then we acquired a crosstown competitor, friendly competitor, Jackson Steel in 2004. And so we grew that, and then I sold it in 2009
Okay.
to a company in Fort Worth.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so ever since then, I've been doing this, which is consulting, mergers and acquisitions.
Right. That's the the
Right.
emails. Right. With the
Right.
the big. I can see the header right now.
Right.
The big graphic shirt.
And so the business, the business has changed. When I sold, I didn't have anybody. I didn't know anybody that could really advise me on specifics of how to do a deal in our industry. I was looking for somebody that could support me through a sale process.
Sure.
And that was the genesis of what I was like, I think there's a need here. Other people could, use some guidance and, have been blessed to be able to make this work. And honestly I really do love what I do with people.
Sure. Well, yeah, that's a good thing. It's good to love what you do. But so so you buy and sell? Is it equipment?
So I broker deals with equipment.
Okay.
One of the first deals I did was Able Steel in Mesa, Arizona, had some equipment, and Mark Foltz called me, said, "Hey, I've got some equipment that we need to sell because we're putting some other stuff in."
Sure.
And I had it on my email blast, and met a guy in Guatemala, and he called me and said, "Hey, I want to go look at this equipment." So I met him in Phoenix. We went to Able Steel and did a deal on his equipment, and then I took him around and we met everybody else in Phoenix for the next couple of days and toured other shops and just said, "Hey, I'm John Schupbach. I want to meet you. And, I'm here in town doing a equipment deal." And so Eric Quanluna and I just went around and we met everybody in Phoenix.
Wow.
And that's when I was going somewhere doing that type of work. I would just call and say, "Hey, I'm in town. Can I come by and introduce myself?"
Sure.
And that's one of the, and take the nickel tour and, get to know people and, kind of develop a network that way. And so when people do have a question or need help, they, call me.
Yeah. So is it kind of an as needed sort of basis? People like, "Hey, I'm looking for this type of beam cutter or what have you."
Yes, or I have this piece of equipment and we're upgrading.
And yeah.
And so there's been several. And I say that I'm blessed because people keep calling me back. As when Able was one of my first clients to do equipment deals. As they've upgraded and changed out equipment, he keeps calling me back to say, "Hey, can you sell this piece for me? We're bringing in this new piece."
Okay.
And I've got several clients like that where I have sold as they've upgraded to this drill line or that drill line or this piece. They call me and happy to work with them and find and broker a deal.
So, and how long have you been doing this then? How long steel?
Since 2010.
Okay.
So 14, 13, 14 years now.
Okay.
So that's one. I also do recruiting. I do mergers and acquisitions, and that's either buy side or sell side. and primarily in the space with fabricators and erectors.
Okay.
So I've done one deal that was a heavy crane, crane and rigging company.
Okay.
But most of these are in the steel construction space of some sort.
Okay. Gotcha. And you're involved. I mean, you're on the safety committee too. If you're ready to switch gears, I wanted to ask about that.
Let's do it. I've been on the planning committee for the steel conference now. We'll have to get the exact date, but it's 4 or 5 years.
Okay,
something
sure.
like that. And the last, when I started, Scott Melnick, but he would say, we talk about safety, but we don't really have a good safety program
Sure.
at the conference. I'm not the safety guy. What I do have is a network. And so I called. I reached out to the network. They put me in contact with absolutely phenomenal safety people that I've been able to bring together to develop a program. And it's what my role really is a facilitator. I am facilitating, taking their ideas and kind of putting them together in a program that we can have.
Okay.
And so the goal with safety is to develop a library of videos that we can distribute industry-wide, because the small fabricators and erectors, a lot of them can't attend. Right? They don't attend the conference.
Yeah, right. They got to stay and work.
But we've got to get this message out. And so we had 11 fabulous sessions this year. We're developing them into a TED Talk type of a presentation, that we're really a produced video that we can then distribute and use that for the future.
Okay.
And our goal is to build a library of discussions and talks that we can promote in the industry.
Oh, that's excellent.
So, and I'm honestly lucky to be able to lead this and really facilitate it. It's not. I don't want to claim the mantle of leader, although I'm
I know what you
chairman.
say, but you're shepherding it.
Shepherding it.
Right.
That's really, and it's really cool. It's a lot of new stuff, and I like it.
Yeah, that's
I
great.
like
Well, it's something. It's another area of like you said, you're not a safety expert, but it's another area to learn. And
I get to tap my network, the network I've built, to pull people in and say what's important, what are important issues, what are we struggling with, and then how can we go address those.
Right.
And then what are the topics and what are the speakers,
Sure.
and what do we need to fill in into.
Yeah, no, that's great. And along those lines, I mean, I know it's a little bit of a different topic, and I don't know if you can speak to this all, but I'm curious. Are you involved in any way with workforce development for the industry?
So that has been that was something I recognized, and I don't want to claim ownership of that.
Right.
But that is something that, in talking and working, I'm working with fabricators and owners and executives every day.
Yeah.
It was a constant. We're looking at equipment. We're looking at automated equipment because we can't find welders. We're looking at this because we can't. And so again, I reached out to a network and said, let's talk about workforce. What do you have? How are you doing it? And again, one of my oldest clients, Able Steel, I talked to Mark Fultz. He said, we've got a fantastic program. You need to talk to Kenny Hicks.
Yeah.
Kenny Hicks is the guy. And I talked to Kenny. I was blown away. And I was, hey, can we get him to come speak in Denver?
Yeah.
We need Kenny to come speak.
Yeah.
And that was really the catalyst. Then Glenn Talbot was in that session.
Yep.
Glenn saw Kenny. He saw the program that he had developed for Able Steel, and they were like, we need to take this and develop it and be able to pass this on, just like we're doing with safety.
Right.
Passing it out. We need this for AISC. AISC to help develop this into a little more robust program.
Right.
And then be able to share that with the members.
Yeah.
So again, just like safety, I was in the right place at the right time and was able to connect the dots. But really, it's because of the network and relationships. And then let's get this going, because it's everybody. Just about every client I talk to at the conference this year is talking about the needs for workforce development, what they're trying to do
Right.
in their company.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a monster program if AIC can pull this together and then distribute it and say, here's what we have been able to aggregate,
Right.
learn, lessons learned, and here's what's going to be able to help you develop a program. Because we need this, we need
Yeah.
safety, and we need workforce development across the industry.
Right.
So that's my,
That's a lot. That's
and look, I'm just honestly, I feel blessed to be able to do. Clients hire me, and then I get to do all this other cool stuff because of it.
Yeah. Sounds
And,
like it.
and I love it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I love it.
Are you? I'm just curious. Are you on the road all the time?
More than my wife would like.
Uh-huh.
I luckily I try to limit the actual nights away. If I can get somewhere
Right.
and get back and just spend one night. And so
Yeah.
leave early, stay the night, and then get 2 full days with somebody.
Right.
That typically covers
What you need. Yeah.
what I need to do for that client.
Okay.
It's harder when San Antonio is a smaller.
Yep.
I don't have as many direct flights
Right.
out of San Antonio. So sometimes when you're going further away, it's harder to do in a one night. But
Of course. Yeah.
I try, I try to manage the expenses for the client, as well.
Yeah.
So, but I get to do a lot of, like I said, I get to do a lot of cool things, helping people look at their production, their shop, look for
Right.
efficiencies. And it's not that I'm a genius.
Huh.
It's just that I've been through 200 fab shops
Yeah.
in Canada, U.S., Mexico, Guatemala, with an eye for operations and production and productivity and best practices. And so a lot of times it's not, I'm not a genius to come up with some new idea. What I do is I see what somebody's trying to do, and I've seen another way that you might be able to do something, implement something that may be a little bit better.
Right.
And
That's
that's
a skill,
That's
though.
the
Yeah.
part. And a lot of times it's, I'll call and say, hey, can this, here's what this person's having a challenge with, and I just connect them with the other fabricator.
Right.
And say, hey, this is what they're having a problem with. Do you mind talking to them? They're not in your market. And so, and that has happened multiple times in the last 3 days where all I'm doing is connecting the dots. So I know somebody comes up to me with a problem. I know where somebody else has a solution.
Right.
I tell them about it. Here's how, but let me see if they're willing to talk to you about it. And so those dots then get connected and they get a solution. They get to, make a relationship with another fabricator
Right.
as well. So
Yeah. It's like you're a matchmaker of sorts.
it is a bit of a matchmaking.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool. I mean,
Yeah. It's a unique setup. I mean,
It-
it's great. And it sort of developed organically. You said, "Oh, I kind of started from here."
Right.
You had that background in the industry,
Right.
and then you did this, and then this came. Yeah,
it's
outstanding.
it is derived all from. It has all come from organic because of somebody's needing something else.
Right.
And so I do have a fairly deep background on accounting and percent complete accounting and the finance side.
Sure.
And okay, so a lot of fabricators, they know, this is what we're trying to do, and here's the equipment I'm looking to buy, and I can back in and say, okay, here's what the, based on what I see and what the variables you're telling me, this is what our projected return on investment ought to be for this piece of equipment. Sometimes it's way off from what they're suspecting
Right.
because they're, the return on investment, if they don't have the utilization on that, they're not going to meet the ROI, and so you need to look for a different solution.
Yeah.
And so maybe something that's less expensive or just something that's different, and that's where the strategy. That's what's really cool. When the operations and finance come together, and you see the light bulbs go off.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, man, okay, we didn't think about that. We hadn't put those two pieces together.
That wraps up another edition of Modern Steel Construction's Field Notes podcast. Once again, this month's guest is John Schutbach, and I'm your host, Jeff Weisenberger. Thanks for listening, everyone.